Welcome back to my channel. I have some really good developments. Multiple C-130 Hercules transport aircraft were seen landing at the US-operated Al Udeid Airbase in Doha, Qatar on April 27th, and this is coming on TRT World News as a fragile ceasefire process between Iran and the US continues. Regional tensions escalated after the US and Israel launched a joint offensive against Iran on February 28, killing more than 3,000 people. Tehran retaliated with drone and missile strikes targeting Israel and countries hosting US military assets. Talks in Islamabad 2 weeks ago failed to produce a breakthrough despite a Pakistan brokered ceasefire announced on April 8th and later extended by US President Donald Trump. Key disputes, including the Strait of Hormuz, the US blockade of Iran ports, and Iran's uranium enrichment. All of these things are not getting settled. I want to actually share with you this particular footage so you know what am I talking here about. This is coming on the news at the moment. Multiple C-130 Hercules aircraft land at US Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. The US has reportedly been ramping up logistical deployments to several of its bases in the Gulf. Of course, these are not a good news because we want this war to end. But lo and behold, something you have to take notice of, and that is that the blockade is not working. Pete Hegseth, all his threats, they are absolutely failing. I want you to take a listen at this video commentary from Larry Johnson. Take a listen. Before I move on, just to remind you, not subscribed to my channel, consider subscribing for all of the updates. Have a listen.
It looks like the United States is intercepting about 10% of the ships that come out because they don't have enough ships. You don't. They're not within 100 miles of the Iranian coast. If they were, they'd be getting shot. So they stay away. But how is it possible?
So Larry Johnson basically here is saying that the blockade of United States military in the Strait of Hormuz is really not working because Iran is way more powerful and they can counter all of this.
That a Iranian naval ship accompanied a bulk carrier. I thought they would have been obliterated. So Donald Trump tells us. Yeah, this news conference today, and to focus on look how good our blockade is, was precipitated by the reports that came out. There's an independent company that follows maritime traffic, and they reported there are 34 ships had already come out from Iran and sailed away and were not stopped. So this is
Wow.
Pete Hegseth trying to say, oh, that's not true. I'm going to show you we're tough. We're everywhere. We're big. We're bad. One of these days, the United States is going to fall flat on its ass, and we'll just enjoy the Schadenfreude at that point.
Larry, the difficulties that the Trump administration is trying to cause, it's trying to bring to Iranian economy is not something new. Iran knows how to deal with these sort of difficulties. You mentioned 10%. Let's assume that. How is that going to put pressure on Iran in a long run? I think because you have something against Iran and you receive something in response, which is how Iran is capable to respond to the United States. How is that going to influence, put pressure on the Trump administration? I think they're not even comparable.
Yeah.
Because, go ahead, your understanding of that.
Well, look, Iran has this thing to the north of it called the Caspian Sea. So it has maritime access direct to Russia. It can ship through Russia. Armenia, I don't include Armenia. Armenia, it has connection with Armenia as well. But the problem with Armenia is they reportedly have agreed to allow their airfields to be used by the United States if hostilities break out again with Iran.
Yeah, this is the tweet that Donald Trump put out, and then he removed that. He said that Armenia, they know, they understand the situation in the Middle East. They're trying to help us, and they're going to help us big time. Here he said Armenia will help big time if we attack Iran.
And Armenia will get its ass kicked for doing if it does that, because Iran and actually probably Russia too will take steps against Armenia. So, but the point is, Iran is not trapped on the north and to the west. You've got Turkmenistan and Pakistan. Pakistan they go through, and I guess the port of Karachi is right there on that. So Iran's not blocked in. It's not like the blockade that was erected against Cuba during the Cuban Missile War. I seem to the number I heard on that was like 77 ships, maybe 115 that the United States is surrounded there. The United States right now has maybe 15 to 20 ships, which so that sounds like a lot. Well, just go out in the ocean and look as far as you can see either way, 5 miles. and we're talking hundreds of miles. So trying to track all these different ships.
Donald Trump, he recently sent a new, the third aircraft carrier strike group, George H.W. Bush, to the Strait of Hormuz for the blockade purposes. Obviously, it has, I think, has already reached there, but the expenses that comes with it is just so humongous. Any blockade you want to continue on, you need warships, carriers and warship. You need helicopters. You need a lot of military equipments to be deployed. And the more you deploy military equipments, helicopters, fighter jets, aircraft carriers, the riskier it gets. If Iran decides to strike these military assets floating in the ocean, in the Persian Gulf, it will be a doomsday for U.S. military. You do not want to put all your eggs in the same basket, in one basket, because if Iran does destroy, if they want to, it's just a matter of if they want to, then they can cause so much damage. It will be apocalyptic for the United States military and probably the end of it. So you do not want to take such a risk just for the blockade. You do not want to gather together so many of your military assets, personnel in just one place to be targeted all at once. And this is Iran's game right now. What they will do next is something that should terrify every American.
And it's just a matter of bulk. You send 30 ships out. The United States does not have 30 ships to attach to each one to try to board. They simply don't. And then once they board them, then what? Then you have to assign resources to control the ship and the crew. So they haven't thought this thing through. I think Iran right now is operating like a drug trafficker. A drug trafficker in Mexico. They send their product, their heroin or their cocaine, up to the United States. 10% of it gets intercepted. All right, cost of doing business. 90% though goes through, and they make the money off that 90%. I think that's sort of what's happening right now with Iran.
Wow. Very good analysis, very good analogy too, as to how this whole thing is panning out for United States of Israel, because always remember, this war was never about Trump. It was never about United States. It was never about even the military industrial complex. It is always about Israel. It is always about Benjamin Netanyahu, who is out there to destroy Iran at any cost. And unfortunately, this time they will make United States to sacrifice all of its military assets, personnel, whatever it takes for Israel to achieve or gain its objectives. So we have to wake up to this reality and see for what it is, and raise awareness. At least tell Donald Trump, hey, don't go for this war, just pack up and leave. Do not deploy those C-130 multiple aircraft. Do not deploy your warships. It's going to be a huge risk and could be end of American military for the most part. Subscribe for more videos in the next one.